All right. Looks like we're getting up to getting started. Hello to everyone who may or may not be there. I'm Jay Sean Jackson, and this is Solidworks Live Design. Today we're going to be going over how to use multi-body modeling to create some fun geometry. This is my key for my electric mower. I call it a hipster tool because I couldn't really think of a good title to use for, hey man, I'm gonna model my electric lawnmower key. That comes out real good and strong. So uh, we're gonna use a couple different modeling methods to make this very small, right? But there can be a lot of details in small geometry. This little injection molded part. So there's a couple things here, some facets, some drops, elevation changes, some ribbing in there that we're going to be looking at. But it can be done, and it will be done. So I'm going to pause for about another minute or so, see if we can get anyone else in here, and share my screen a little bit. How you doing, Ray? I see you over there, buddy. Eric, wow, your 20th session. All right, man, that's awesome. This is my first. I started with SolidWorks not too long ago. A little bit about myself, because I know I'm on a tight hour here, and I want to make sure that I can get this going. How you doing, sir? Ed. Um, Once again, Jay Sean Jackson. I'm a SolidWorks TSE. I'm a CSWE, PA, blah 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 blah. I don't really care about the titles there. Um, I'm sure they make a great pickup line somewhere. Maybe not. My background, multi-platform CAD veteran. I've used a lot of it. Anything from NX to Ideas, which ironically became NX, Inventor, SolidWorks, Solid Edge, Pro E. I've used a lot of them. Worked for a couple resellers. How you doing, Simon? Fisher Unitech, 3D Vision, which are both also ironically now CATI, Chomp. Did some machine design and drafting. Worked at Siemens, R.A. Jones, Caden Black Clausen. I would love to sit here and tell you that I worked on some really, really interesting high-tech machinery, but not so much. It wasn't really all that great. But I can make a mean Lego Porsche. Yeah, look at that. Look at them lines. It's perfect. Okay. So, hobbies. I like to fly. My grandfather was a pilot. He rubbed that off on me. Love aviation. Been obsessed about it most of my life. Also like to fight. Uh, Grew up in martial arts. Did a little Tenshin Pai, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, Kempo, and I don't think you can be mechanical and come from a mechanical engineering background without having some sort of love for vehicles. Vehicles, right? So I did race up at Mid Ohio, SCCA. So I did ITB class. That's a low displacement class. Um, had a little Porsche 914 that I ran. Had a Celica GT. I think they were called GT4s back then. All-wheel drive Celica. A lot of fun stuff. A lot of fun stuff there. So that's a little bit about myself. I like to, give everyone a little slate here so they know who they're talking with. Some of you have maybe been to one of my lectures before at World or um, at meeting groups, right? The user groups, forums, right? I've presented at a number of those across the country. And today is my first live design session. And I think we're going to have some fun. Everybody underestimates the complexity of small little parts. I made that mistake when I was in college learning about computer aided drafting for the first time. And my teacher was like, hey, everyone, I want you to pick for your final, I want you to pick what you want to model. And I was like, oh, this is going to be cake. And I decided to model a Bates stapler. And it was like the most humbling experience for me in the context of um, that industry because I thought it would be easy and it was not. It was not easy. So let's look at what we're going to be modeling here. All right. This is exactly what I just showed you, lawnmower key. very prismatic, but we do have a lot of facets. We got some sharp cuts, right? And we do have some elevation changes. If we look right in there, that little ramp there in the center, has a definite elevation change. Moving over to the back, the rear, we have this giant uh, key shaft here with a little detent here for locking out the mechanism. We have some ribbing in here to add structural support to the part. And back over here on the front, we have a little lanyard loop hold right there. And that's for a lanyard, because I don't know. I guess people want to strap these to their wrist and walk around like, got lawnmower key. So we're going to crack this out. Probably one of the most important things I can say about the Moss there, brother, um, is about designing, right, is how we're going to use this, right? Our initial perspective and profile, right, and how we're going to orient this part is very, very, very important. What I tell my students is, hey, when you're going to start out and you're going to choose the plane that you're going to sketch on first, think about and envision, one, what feature is going to generate the most material after a single feature, right? And two, how is this part going to be oriented when I use it, okay? This part fits into the mower like that, okay? So for me, I would start this part, uh, or start that initial sketch on the top plane because it's going to create most of the geometry for this top part, okay? So if we look at it over here in SolidWorks, get some stuff out of the way here. Boop, sleep well. If we look at it here in SolidWorks, I can see that I'm going to have to use a number of different features to get exactly what I want. But more importantly, while I could model this as a single body, I think the most efficient way would be to use multi-bodies. And if you've ever sat through any of my lectures before, you know I love using multi-body. It's my jam. And it's my jam because it's very, very flexible. So many times people will take a simple part or simple file and turn it into an assembly when really they could use a multi-body part. There's so many benefits to multi-bodies. I'm not going to say that they're superior. They're just a different way, okay? And SolidWorks is masterful at giving you different ways to do different things, okay? So we'll work through creating this geometry from scratch in multiple bodies, and then we'll use different features that will interact with the other bodies, and we'll even tell them which bodies to interact with, and then we'll stitch it all together to make it one unit. Okay? All right. We got everybody in here. Any questions before I start? Like, no, like, what's the weather or anything like that? Everybody can still hear me all right? Anything in the chat? You guys nervous or something? All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started, and everybody should be able to see my screen. I'm gonna go ahead and start a new file. So go in right here, say new. I can also use Control N. Nice little shortcut. I like shortcuts. You'll learn some of them today. And like I said, I'm gonna start my sketch, my initial sketch to get this shape off the top plane. So I'm gonna come right over here and I'm gonna say top plane. And whenever I start my sketch, yes, it goes right into a normal perspective for me. Oh, everybody's popping in here now. All right, good. Good, good, good. I know it's working. Hey, Kelly, how you doing? Audio's great. Cool, cool, cool. Sweet. As far as the recording, get with me later on that because I'm pretty sure everything is going to record it and be posted onto YouTube. Wow, that was like perfect timing there. All right. So, start my sketch. I'm inside of a sketch. I know I'm in a sketch because my origin is red. If I was outside of a sketch, it would be blue, unless I wanted to go and mess with my colors, which I would not recommend for the origin. So, I'm going to start my sketch. One thing that I have a lot of in this part is symmetry. So, I'm going to use a little tool that no one ever talks about, but I love, and that is the midpoint line. Midpoint line is my friend. It can be yours too. So I'm going to make that construction. All right, so now it's a center line. And I'm going to just start sketching up here. Now, when I'm sketching, I can just make it as rough as I want. It doesn't really matter because I'm going to drive this with dimensions. So here I have a general shape that I know that this part is going to be in, and I can start tying it together with dimensions. That's why it's parametric. Okay, I'm using parameters to drive this. I'll say this one's going to be 55, right? And the reason it dropped like that is because the first dimension that was in there was set to 150, and now this is saying, hey, it's 155, so it's resizing it. And that's fine. We can still move this around. Everybody say yay to shaded contours there. It's good stuff. I'm gonna drag this out, reshape this a little bit. There we go, it's 55. And a dimension over here to that point. There we go. And so I'm kind of getting close here, but I'm going to start using a specific type of dimensioning here. I'm going to go across the center line because I'm going to take this point here to my center line and let it double up to get my overall length there. This one's going to be 22. This one is going to be 29. And just like that, I have that general shape set here already. Okay. Now, is it fully defined? No, it's not. All right. I like to fix my my sketches, right? I equate it to working on a workbench, right? If I'm hammering stuff and sawing stuff and building things out or sketching it out on a piece of paper, I want it to stay in place so I can reference everything well and, you know, not lose a hand because I like my hands. So I'm going to take this corner right here and I'll make it horizontal to my origin. Now that sketch is fully defined and I can move on. So I have half of this sketch made. And why is that? Because I said this part is symmetrical, right? To a point. If we flip it over here on the rear, it's not exactly symmetrical, but on the front, as far as my features go, it's symmetrical. So I'm going to take advantage of that for right now. To get this first body, I'm going to use the boundary tool. Boundary is kind of like the feature that Loft would want to be when it grows up. It's a lot more flexible. You can do a lot more things with it. But to do a boundary, I need a second profile. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go right here to my top plane, and I'm going to hold down Control, drag it up just a little bit, and give myself an offset. In this case, just a little bit over 3 millimeters. Then I'm going to sketch on that plane and go normal to. I always like to go normal to. Let's back this up, resize this plane a little bit. All right, so now we're in another sketch. We want to make sure we're being efficient here and not sketching things over and over again. So what I want to do now is I'm going to use the sketch that I already have. So I'm going to say, hey, let's offset some entities. And I want my offset to be 6 millimeters. And I'll choose the lines that I want to offset. So I'll go ahead and choose that whole shape, hit my green check, and now I can get rid of what I don't want using the trim tool. Slice that away. All right, that's looking good. And I'm going to drag these endpoints over to where I want them to be, create another line to close it up, hit my green check, and I'm going to leave that sketch. So now I have a sketch that's offset from my initial. I'll hide that plane since I don't really need to be seeing that. And that is perfect for a boundary. Okay? Any questions here? Kyle, yeah, dark gray theme. It's kind of a combination of the dark theme, and I use a custom color to fill in the viewport there. Okay, it's easier on the eyes, and I like the contrast. It helps me work a little bit better. All right, let's do a boundary. Let's get over here. I'll say boundary boss. Now, boundary works very similarly to Loft, right? The point is I want a straight vector to the other profile. Because if I don't, I can get some really weird warping. Like if I choose this corner and this corner, see how it's warping my body? It's twisting it around, right? Looks pretty stressful. I'm going to clear that out. So what I want is I want to grab this point and this point to get a nice clean direction, nice straight vector there. And what that does is that gives me a nice planar face. So if I wanted to use this down the road, I can create a sketch right there. Okay, pretty easy. Oops. All right, so we got one body made, and I'm going to go ahead and name that body. I'm going to call that one upper. It's good to name your features. If you don't already, you should do it because it helps you keep track of what is what and where it is. And if you want to get into like global variables and equations, it's very easy to tie these things together. Okay. Now, my second body, this is just my initial body. My second body is going to come from the bottom here. It's a planar face, so I can just start a sketch on here. I'm going to leave it highlighted and just use convert entities. Convert entities is one of my best friends. Then I can go over here to extrude boss base and put in my depth, which is going to be a 6.5 millimeters. But I am going to change something here. This merge result right there. It's really hard to draw a magnified straight line. I just want you guys to know that. I'm kind of badass at it. Sometimes I fail. Thank you. So I want to uncheck that merge result, and that's going to let me create this extrusion, okay, and keep it a separate body. And that's what I want right now. That's what I want. So I'll go ahead and hit my green check, and now I have two separate bodies, okay? How do I know? It's like an old Monty Python. How do you know, right? I know it's a second body there because I have my solid bodies folder now populated with two separate bodies. The benefit of that is I can now switch between these two bodies very easily. If I want to isolate one, I can right click and come down here and say isolate, and it takes away the body that I don't want to focus on right now. If I want to exit that, I exit isolate. Good deal, right? So I got two bodies right now. I have my upper and my lower, okay? And we're going to move on. So I got my upper, I got my lower. If we remember the geometry here, we do have like a little offset face here, like where it's going to fit and drop right into the pocket for this key. So we're going to create that real quick. I still have a bunch of planar faces, so I'll go ahead and start a sketch here. And once again, I'm going to use convert entities to get that outer parameter. And then I can use that same face and use offset entities and give it a 1 millimeter offset and reverse it on the inside to create it again. Okay. The benefit of all this, offset entities, convert entities, is that I don't have to worry about fully defining a sketch because the software already knows where the geometric body is, right? Because as long as I fully define my other sketch, it's going to follow that and it's going to look for the hard edges of my geometry and pull it straight from there. And it gives me a really, really, really nice relation here called on edge. Okay. So I have contours here. Everybody say, hey, if you love shaded sketch contours. It's probably one of my favorite things since, I don't know, the first down line in NFL or something, right? Because before that, it was always an argument, always. But now, shaded contours, we know what it is, right? All right, so I can come over here, features. I'm gonna say Extruder Cut, and it's looking at the contour that I last selected. All right, and I'm gonna just knock this down to 4.5. It's gonna give me a preview here of that offset. And now I have a nice offset cut there around this body, and I'm going to name that plug offset. There we go. Been fat fingering things. Remember, name your features. Good stuff. All right, so we got our plug offset in here. Next, we need to add a recess. Now I could sit here and model this cut, this kind of beveled cut here. My webcam is on my laptop, so I got two monitors, so I'm constantly looking between here. I could model that beveled cut, and it wouldn't be hard, right? But I'm trying to make this efficient, so we're going to see how I can model this bevel cut and also have this elevation change here for this ramp right here. Okay. It really is just one after the other. It's baby steps for everything. It's all about the sketch because right now I still have planar faces everywhere pretty much. So I'm going to take advantage of that. We'll go normal 2 again. Let's rein in our, let's rein in that construction line. I think I might have to do it in the other sketch. That's fine. I keep zooming out because I have that center line, that midpoint line that's so big right now. But that's fine. So we want to do our recess. So I'm going to get in a sketch here for that recess and set it up. Let's see how this works. I'm already in my sketch. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use convert entities. But it's going to be a little different here because I actually don't want to keep these on edge relations, right? I want to move these. Since I took away that on edge relation, it's just a line now. It doesn't really have any specific direction. So I'm going to give it a horizontal relation there. All right, that one's good. And I'll go ahead and dimension this to about 25 right there. I'll make this one 8.5. I feel like I use 8.5 a lot. And for this last one, this has no relation on it. I'm going to move this point up just a little bit right there. And just to really lock it down, I'm just moving it up so it knows that it has a coincident relation there, okay? And I'm just going to give these two lines right here a parallel relation. So I now have this nice little profile here that I want to use for my cut, okay, for the recess. So I'll go ahead and leave that sketch. Now, because I have multiple bodies right now, and because I'm utilizing, and I do this a lot, I utilize and I stay aware of where my standard planes are so I can utilize them in whatever I'm designing. My top, my front, my top, and my right, I'm always keeping check of where they are, okay? So because I set that first boundary law from my top plane, I can use it again right now for another sketch, and I'm going to do exactly that. So I'll go normal 2. I'm going to take this sketch and I'm going to offset it in about 2 millimeters. I'll reverse it in here. There we go. And again, I'm going to get rid of what I don't need. So I'll get rid of this and I'll drag these over here to that edge and close it up. A lot of repetition in this part following the actual geometry. When I follow the actual geometry, because everything's kind of like nested really, right? Starting from that bevel is following the outline and that inner piece, the intersection is still the same overall shape. So we're going to be reusing a lot of edges, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So I have everything set here. I'll leave this sketch. And if I look at it now, you can see that again, I have 2 very clearly offset sketches, one on the top of this top body, one right in the middle. And that allows me to get right in here and take a bite out of crime, right? I can hop right over here to a boundary cut and grab one point and the other point, green check. There's my chomp, okay? That bite out of crime reference, that was McGruff. Some of you may not remember his name, all right? I'll go over here to my boundary cut and I'm going to call that one my recess. Also a really, really good Nirvana song. All right. Hey, Capitan, is that clapping for McGruff? Or maybe me, maybe this session. All right, so who identifies a real problem? I'm gonna give you guys a second here to identify a problem. I like to throw these in here so people understand why it's a problem. If you look, if I were to mirror this body right now, I would have a channel going right through here because this is offset. So that's not going to work, right? How do I correct that when I have all these other features happening right now, right? I just use my rollback bar. So I'm going to use this rollback bar. It acts like my recess never happened. And the issue is in this plug offset. I'm going to open this up, check this sketch, and see what's going on in here. What's going on is that I offset both of these lines. Well, that's not good because that wouldn't work. What I really need is I need to get rid of this center line, extend this line here. Oops, looks like it's caught on a relation. Boink. I'll drag this one out. That one's referencing something too. Boink. There we go. And I'll just grab my trim tool and slice that one away. Power trim is, it's like the Ginsu of the virtual world, of the SolidWorks world. So now when I leave this sketch, you see how that offset now has now changed. It's not over here. Everybody see that? All right. So we use that rollback bar to go back and adjust that feature. Rollback bar is the best. So I'll bring that recess back. All right, my recess is back. And the next thing I want to look at is more of the topology really of and the general shape of this part, okay? Um, if you look at it really quick, it's really easy to say that, okay, this is just flat, right, on the front, but, well, no, I have a taper here, okay? But at the same time, it's not just a straight, obvious slant. There is a couple tapers here. If we look at it very, very closely, okay, we can see that it slopes down probably over about 2 angles. So we need to compensate for that. We need to put that in there. So we need to put that in there along the top. And there's a couple ways I could go about doing this, but I'm going to just do a really simple way here because we're constrained for time. So I'm going to come up here to my right plane. Look how I'm using my right plane. It's right there, okay? And it's because I'm designing around my default planes. So my right plane is right there, and it's going to bisect this part perfectly. If I go normal to twice, it'll actually flip my view over, which is nice. And I'm going to go ahead and put a sketch in here, starting from this bevel, this face split, and I'm just going to put something in there like that. Okay. Again, I don't have to be precise about where this is because I'm going to drive it with geometry, right? So let's check this out here. Actually, I'm noticing something else we forgot. Yeah, on that offset up here on the upper. Yeah, we did not, we got a bevel back here that we don't need. All right, let's go edit the sketch again. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, because see, I really don't want that bottom line. I actually want to bring this down here. So I'll say, make that coincident, and I'll make this one down here, make that coincident. There we go, and that changed the top a little bit. That's fine. It's just changing my loft a little bit, or my boundary. Did we forget a line? Yeah, I guess we did. Thought I put that in there. So anyone who says the pros don't make mistakes, now you know from a pro. Yes, we do. All right, so since we changed that bevel, all right, the recess has to change as well because we have a sketch in here or something with a feature that is slightly different. In this case, it was just a sketch, so we're just going to grab this sketch and reassociate the points. Hold on one second here. Okay, so sketch 5 is more than one contour. It's not in the issue, or it's not in the feature, it's in the actual sketch. So let's look at this here real quick. See what we got. And I don't see more than one contour. I see one line there. I see one line there. One line here. One line there. And one line. All right, cool. And I'm going to, there it is. This is what helps us right here. Select all, Control A. There it is right there. Boom. Gone. And we just got one more issue to work through. That's probably just a relation. Yep. The good old dangling dimension. I did not choose that term. It was not me. Slice. There we go. All right, cool. So we got this corrected. And I'm going to go ahead and set some dimensions in here from this top here. That's going to be my 4 degrees for that angle. And that's actually pretty close, 6.5. And now all I'm doing is just closing up this profile to make a cutting profile. Okay. So I'm going to look at what is changed, if anything has changed. And I'm going to make sure all of my points are seated correctly, which that one was not. And this one looks like it shifted too when we moved our, or changed our sketch. Actually, let's change this one altogether. So I think we had that one at 4. And that one at 6.5. There we go. There we go. All is well on the western front over here. Yeah. All right, so we have this profile closed up. And someone liked the shirt. Hey, thank you for noticing. We got the profile set up. We're gonna go over here to Extruder Cut, choose the sketch that we just made, and we're gonna set it to go through all. And we're gonna make sure that it's gonna cut on the right side. There we go. So now we have that nice little tapered body going down here. Everybody still with me on there? All right. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and name that one. I'll call that one the profile shave. The profile shave. My mom would say, you need to shave. So got a profile shave in. So the next thing we need to do is we need to get this little ramp in here. Okay, let me move that right there. I need to get that little ramp in my plastic part and match it up to the top there. Okay, so since that is not exactly normal, the plane that I would need in that sketch is not exactly normal to my part, I'm going to have to put in a sketch plane here, a reference plane, and that's pretty easy. I have reference planes up here, so I'll do that. That was my dog, not me. And I'm going to go ahead and choose a primary, secondary, and a tertiary reference here for my plane. And that's very easy to do, right? I have a number of different ways I can create planes. One of them is a 3-point reference, which lets me choose 3 points. There's one, kind of hard to grab. Come here. There it is. There's 1 point. And here's a second point, third point, and I'll green check. And so what that does is it creates a plane that's going to pass through the 3 points that I selected. From there, it's just a matter of starting a sketch on that plane, because that plane now is normal to, my sketch is normal to the plane I just created. So I'm going to start sketching here. I'm going to choose these lower 2 points, one right there, one right here. Actually, the same ones that I use for the plane reference. And I'll stitch it up over here with a profile. Hit my green check. That's looking pretty good. It's fully defined because I'm using known locations, right? All my vertices that I'm using and the lines, it knows where everything is. I don't have to do anything with dimensioning. Right here, what are we saying over here? Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave my sketch right now. And I like to leave my sketch highlighted. If I don't touch anything else, my sketch stays highlighted and I can go right into another feature. I'll go right here into Extruder Boss Base. And I can tell from this preview that my boss is going the opposite direction that I want to go, right? So I'm going to say, hey, let's flip the direction. And what's funny is that as soon as I flip the direction, I can see the end conditions in here, right? But if I flip my direction, I get more end conditions in here that I can use, a different list. What I want to use is up to next right here. Up to next is basically going to say, hey, I want to push material. I'm going to generate material until I run into something. And so it's very good at conforming to any amorphous or organic shapes and geometry. Now, again, because I don't want to merge this, I'm going to uncheck the merge results. That was not straight. Don't judge me. I'll uncheck that. Green check. There's my ramp. Okay. Now, if at some point I wanted to make sure that that merge result button was unchecked every single time that I go into a feature and generate it, I can do that by using a Weldment feature. If I go over here to Weldment, I can use a Weldment feature, and that would actually remove that check from the box for merge results every single time. Okay, so I don't have to keep hitting it. So I'll go ahead and hide this. I got my ramp, so I'll go ahead and name the feature ramp. Boom. All right. And what else are we missing? We got to go. We got to get this cut in here. And this is where people start to overcomplicate things. Let's look at this cut. I got a nice, beautiful cut that's coming through this part, and it just kind of veers off, right? How do we model that? What kind of extrusion can I get, or what kind of cut can I get, right? You're going to have sometimes where you're going to have times where you want to set a cut very, very cleanly, but you're not going to be able to do it with like prismatic features. So you got to use other things, other cutting tools. And this is yet another reason why we're modeling in multi-body, because I want to use a feature and just focus on one body at a time. So what I can do here is I can use a cutting tool, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start a sketch here on the top plane. I'll go normal to that plane, and I'm going to make a sketch here. I'll start from this edge, and I'll go about here, get into a tangent arc, and just drag this one out. Now, the reason I'm dragging this out is that I want my cutting tool to run out of the material. Okay, I want it to not stop, because if it stops in the material or close to the vertice, I can run the issue of possibly having some kind of geometric condition error. Okay, so let's dimension up our sketch first. I'll go 8.5 over here. Wow, did I just nail that? I did. That's pretty. Hope the recruiters are watching. There's CAD scouts in the audience. All right, so I'll throw one more dimension in here. Boink, right there. All right, so I still have a lot of my entities, my three main entities are still not really fully defined, right? And one way I can really nail that down is just by adding a parallel relation there. There we go. So that's mostly defined. I say mostly because I still have this point right here that's blue, right? And I want it that way because I want I want this to be free so I can adjust this to how this is going to run out. Okay, so that's looking good. I'll go ahead and leave that sketch. All right, so next I have the path now that I want to cut. Now I need something to create the cutting profile, right? So I need a tool, if you will, that's going to scoop and chisel around this part. So I'm going to draw that. And this isn't hard, but what I do need is another reference plane. So I'm going to come back over here, reference plane. Okay. Now the first time I used 3 different points, right, to create a plane. This time I'm going to use a different reference. This time I'm going to use a vector, right, this line, and then a stopping point right there. And look what it does. It gives me a nice little plane right there, normal to that direction, right, and planar. So I'll go ahead and hit my green check, and I'll start a sketch right there. Again, normal 2 to flip me around the right way. And actually in this one, we're not going to be normal 2. We're just going to move the camera just a little bit so I can see how this line is going to lead out. So I'll take my line tool and I'm going to go right here to the origin and just sketch it out like this. And really that's all I need. I want to put an angular dimension here. 45, it's kind of an arbitrary dimension, but I really just, all I need is I need that line point to be above the highest point of geometry because this guy ramps up. I don't want it to get caught under any body, right? So I'm going to use that. I'll leave this sketch and I'll come over here to surfaces, the dreaded word, surfaces. You say surfaces to designers and they're like, I don't know about surface. Surfacing is easy. Surfacing is easy. It just takes a little bit more planning and thought. And we're not going to do anything crazy today. We're just going to create a swept surface. And a swept surface is just like swept extrusion, right? I need a profile and a path. So I have my profile. I kept my sketch, my last sketch selected, so it grabbed it for me. And now I just need a path, okay? Now, when I have a segmented path like this, if I just select one, it'll say, hey, you just want this one segment? And no, I want this whole segment. So sometimes I'll have to use something like the selection manager, right? The selection manager will let me get in here and choose whether I want a loop, an open loop, multiple segments, whatever. I'm going to choose open loop. That'll work too, right there, okay? Green check, and it gives me this nice little preview of the surface of my cutting tool that I'm going to make. I'll go ahead and hit my green check, and there it is. It's all pretty. Accidentally started a sketch there. I'm gonna hide that plane because I don't need it anymore. So now I have 3 bodies, right? The bottom, the upper, and my ramp. And now I have 3 solid bodies, and I have a surface body. And that surface body is showing right here. Oh, so close to being straight. Surface bodies, 1. Okay? All right. So I got my surface body carving right straight through here, and I want to, that's where I want it to like chomp out that geometry. So I'm going to go right over here under surfaces, nice little command called cut with surface. I need to choose my cutting parameters. Well, I want to cut with this surface, right? And the feature scope is saying, hey, I'm going to automatically select what body you want to focus on because I have 3 different bodies here. And the feature scope, this is something I covered in another lecture, right, will let me choose what body I want. If I take away auto select right now, it'll let me select which bodies I want this cut to affect. But I'm going to leave auto select on because I have this chisel, if you will, exactly where I want it. The only thing I really need to pay attention to is the direction that it's cutting. I can see this little tiny arrow right here. It's pointing this way, right? Ugh, that's a janky arrow, right? So I need to flip that to go the other way. All right, that's looking good. Let's hit my green check. Look at that. Okay. By the way, the feature does not make that sound. That was me. It's not the software. All right, cool. All right, so another great thing with multi-bodies, right? It works the same way as in assemblies. My hotkey is tab. With tab, I can hide bodies very easily when I hit tab. Shift tab brings it back. Same thing with the surface. When I click on tab, it hides my surface. If I want to bring it back, shift tab. There it is. Pretty easy. Okay. But this is looking good right now. I got this nice clean carve out of here, and it didn't really mess with my body below it, which is pretty close to what I have here, right? So let's go ahead and see what we can do next here. All right. So we got our chisel and what I'll call my chisel cut. I'll go ahead and rename these chisel, and I'll call this chisel cut. All right. This is looking pretty good right now. So next, what I want to do is I want to bring in my symmetry. I want to fold this over. I want to mirror this. Okay. Everybody should know what mirroring is. It's going to allow me to reflect my geometry to another side. But what's interesting is how this is going to work, because I want to uh, very very evenly, right, symmetrically mirror all these bodies over. So I don't need to create a plane because this is a planar face right here. So I'll come over to mirror under features. I'll say mirror. The first thing it wants is it wants a mirror face plane right here. I didn't try for the straight line. All right. I'll go ahead and select that. But also, I want to switch from features to mirror to bodies to mirror, because I don't really care about the features. I want the actual body. By selecting the bodies, I will bring all the features. So I'll say one body, two bodies, three bodies. Next, I'm going to say merge solids. And you say, oh, what? But he wants this on multi-body. Well, watch what happens. Green check. I merged all the solids. But why, pray tell, do I have three bodies here? Well, I have three bodies because with the mirror feature, it's saying, when it gives me that merge results, it's saying the geometry that gets created when you mirror, do you want it to merge with the seed? Yes. In that case, yes, I do. Because otherwise, if I don't, I'll have this big fat dividing line on each one of those bodies. Okay? Then I'll have six bodies, which I don't want. So that's why that worked. Okay? That particular way. All right, so this is coming along pretty well. We got our mirror. Because I have separate bodies now, I can throw a shell in here and put in a thickness of 1 millimeter, hit my green check, and that shell works perfectly fine, and it doesn't go all the way through because it's still limited to the body, to the body of the face that I selected, right? If this was all completely merged and I hit shell, I would actually dig out material that would contour to my bodies over here, all right? But I kept it contained by using a separate body. Everybody see what I'm doing here? Good strategy, yeah? All right. So what do we got next? What do we got next? We got our chisel in, we got our cut chisels in. Let's look, let's throw in this lanyard loop. I'm going to speed it up now. I'm going to pick it up a little bit, okay? Because we're getting low on our time, and I want to show you guys how we can speed this up, okay? Instead of sketching everything else out from here, I'm going to use blocks, all right? Type in the chat kangaroo if you know what a blocks is. Sketch block. I want to actually see who does kangaroo. Anybody? Anybody want to give me kangaroo? A Joey, perhaps? I don't know. All right. So a sketch block allows me to group entities from a sketch together. So and I can library them. So I can just grab them and drag them in and then use them however I want. For this lanyard loop, I'm going to use sketch blocks. Okay, just to make it a little bit quicker. I'll start a sketch on this planar face, and I'm going to go over here and say insert block. And I created some blocks beforehand, so I'm going to navigate to them. And let's see here. Let's go lanyard bridge. That's about right. We got one kangaroo. You guys are no fun. One. All right. And I'll place that block in here. So now it's already a fully sketched rectangle. I know I choose the complicated profiles. All right. But I'm going to look for the midpoint right there. And I'm going to look for the midpoint up here. Right there. hold down Control, and I'm going to make them coincident. It's not fully defined now, right? I still have rotation. So I'll grab this edge and make them collinear. There we go. So that sketch is fully defined right here, and I'm going to leave it. All right. Next, I'm going to come over here to this side. I'm going to do the same thing, the same exact thing, right? I'm going to go grab, insert block. Now it's keeping the same one that I had before on here, which is nice, because now I can get in here and just place it wherever I want. I'll click once, and now I hit escape to clear that block, because I don't want, multiple blocks over and over and over again. And I'm going to find that midpoint. There it is. A little quick tip here. If I can't get the midpoint, I can always right click on a line and say select midpoint right there, and it'll give me the midpoint. And I'll go ahead and take those, make them coincident, and also make sure that that one is collinear. There we go. That sketch is good. Now, because this part, again, is symmetrical, for this particular loft that I'm going to do, I want to make a guide curve for it. Well, normally I would do this in a 3D sketch, but really here I don't have to, because my right plane, again, goes right through the middle of the part. So I'll start a sketch here on the right plane, and I'll go normal to it. Let's go normal to again, flip it around. All right. And I'm going to change my display style to hidden lines visible so I can see in here pretty well. And I'm just going to do a really basic sketch. Nothing crazy, just here, here, and there. All right. I'll set this top line here 5 1/4. Get my angle here. Say this one's 45. And I'll say, let's just make these equal. Oops. Put this on the point there. Boink. There we go. That's fully defined. But I'm going to take this a little bit further, though, too. Because when I do a loft, if I'm going from one profile to another via a guide curve, I like to make sure, all right, that my line is intersecting with the profile. So I'm going to grab the point here and this edge, and I'm going to give it a pierce relation. So that way I know for certain that this this line is intersecting this profile. There's 2 pierces. All right, so I have one profile, another profile. I'm going to use the loft tool, give it a little bit of attention because it might get depressed or something, right? I'm being replaced. All right. Loft is still very useful. And it's, it's useful. It's fun, right? I want to make sure everything's cleared out just to make sure I select the correct things. But the same stuff still applies. I want to go point to point, right, when I'm using a loft. So let's do that. Let's move the camera around. I want to grab that point if I can get it. If I can't, then I'll just grab the point down here. Why can't I get the point? That's funny. All right. There we go. One point. Another point. All right. Now, I actually had a Sketch 14 already selected, so it went ahead and used that. I mean, it's kind of not fair, so I'm going to show you guys what happened. I lined these up point by point, okay? So it gave me that loft from one profile to the other. But down here in Guide Curve, I went and I selected this guy, right? So it selected it automatically because I had the sketch selected, but I'll say Selection Manager, and then I'll select this and green check, and now it's following that that curve. Oh, that's not what I want. There we go. Boink. There we go. All right, so I have I didn't have my or I had merge results set, so we're gonna fix that a different way. All right, so I'm gonna bring this back in, but before I do that, I want to change that line a little bit because I don't like junky edges like that. So I'm gonna name this real quick. I'll call this lanyard. Boom. And I'm going to edit that sketch right here, sketch 14. Let's clean this up just a little bit. I'm going to throw some fillets in here. Put a fillet of 1 millimeter, sure. Boom, yes, and boom, yes. Green check that. There we go. There we go. There we go. That's nice and smooth out there. I like that better. All right. So we got our little lanyard loop here. Everything's looking good. Next, I need to create this pass-through. So this part, remember, has a little window that's going through there. Okay. So if I select this face down here, it selects that whole body because we're dealing with multi-bodies. So I'm in a sketch. What I need to do is select this perimeter, this inside perimeter. Remember, tab button hides bodies I don't want. I'll get in here and grab this edge, that one, and this one. I get it. And we'll say convert entities. There we go. That's looking good. Grab the trim tool, slice this up, slice, slice. Green check. And I'll cut this out with my extruder cut. And I'll say through all. There we go. There's my chomp. I'll go ahead and name that feature. Window. There we go. All right, so this is coming together really good. I'm missing this guy, so I'll hold down Shift Tab to bring it right back. All right. All right, so we're pretty much almost done here. Last things we need to do is we need to create that key shaft. Again, I'm not going to sketch the profile out. I'll just go ahead and use a block. So I'll go normal 2, and I'm going to start this sketch. Let's go around here to the back. It's going right there, yeah. Normal 2, and if I go normal 2 again, it'll flip it over for me. And I totally forgot to say. Start a sketch there. All right. I'm awake, I promise. There we go. All right. So I'm going to go back over here to insert block. Insert block. We'll browse to the block that I want. In this case, it's going to be the key shaft. One great thing about this is when I bring in a block, if I need to rotate it at all, I can do that, right? So if this is going to be backwards in the camera, but right now, the reality of this is from the front face to the back, this kind of like D shape, I keep going the other way. This D shape here is facing the other direction, right? So I need to rotate that. I can come over here and say 180 to flip that, okay? And then I can go ahead and place that. It looks like I'm placing it on this ramp, but remember, I selected this face for my sketch plane. So I'm actually sketching over here, and I'll just, whoa, that's not what I want to do. Let's go back here. There we go, brought that back. I'll go ahead and rotate this. Alt and my arrow keys will rotate this for me. If you didn't know that, now you know. So what's it going to do? I'll take this edge, make it collinear here, and I'll take this and put it at about 18 and a half, I believe. Let's make it 18. So 18, all right, and that's all I need to do. All right, that sketch is fully defined. Since I'm using the sketch block, it's boom, and it's right there, it's done. Now I can go over here and just extrude that. It'll pick up the contours, and I can make this 39 millimeters there. All right, again, not merging the results, green check. Okay, so we're getting there pretty quick. All we need to do now is add this detent cut. Again, I'll use another block. Last block I'm using today, pretty sure. I'll go over here to my live design. Throw this detent in here. Again, it's not at the right angle that I want it to be at. So I'll come over here and say, swing it 90 degrees. There we go. Good to go. And if you can see, that profile now is it's up on there. It's flipping around because I got the corner on there. If I want, I can just make this collinear. You guys should know that by now. And I'll go ahead and dimension this. We'll put this one also at 18. So the blocks are allowing me to very, very quickly get in there and sketch a profile and add a feature to it, just like that. Okay. Now, right about now, because of how I did this, I can start to add some other things. But just because I'm being a little strategic about this, I want to make a change. And that change here is that right now, this key shaft here is its own body. Well, I'm going to go back to that key shaft, and I'm actually going to merge it. Now it's merged with this bottom body. And the reason I do that is because I want to put in ribbing. And when I go to my ribbing, I need to have the bodies connected. So I'll go ahead and start my sketch here. And if you recall about ribbing, I don't really need to have a fully defined sketch with ribbing. Okay, all I have to do is just create a line. And if you can think of it as an up to next in condition with the actual bodies associated, meaning that it's going to just go out and find terminating faces when I choose ribbing. So even though I have these lines here and they're very clearly not fully defined, I can go over here to features and say rib. It's going to show me the profiles here, right? Set this down to 1. Make sure that my arrows are pointing in towards the material, which they seem to be, and choose the body that I want them to go to. Hit my green check. And this is an issue I've been noticing here because sometimes this works and sometimes it doesn't. I know I noticed this, I ran into this the other day. Boink. Let's see if it works this time. Yeah. For whatever reason, this is going to work until I try it again after not making any changes, and it will work. It's something weird like that. Uh, let's see here. This dimension is dangling just because we merged the result, so it needs a new reference. And that's all I did right there. Just drag that. Let's see if this will work with ribbing now. 1 millimeter. Going towards my face. We'll select this body. Yeah, it's still not doing it. It does work though, I promise you. It does work. Let's move on since we have some other things to finish up here, really. And really, the only other thing I do here is I throw a gusset here under the from the Weldments. So I get in here to gusset, and you got to choose the supporting faces that you want it to have for a gusset, or else, and you got to put in the right parameters, or else it gives you this gigantic gusset here, which you don't want. So we'll go 2, 3, 2, and I think that one's 1. Yeah, there we go. Nice little nub. And that gives me a little gusset. We'll try this guy one more time. Because the people need to see it. 1 millimeter. Let's try it with a linear to this deep cut. And actually, let's choose it up here, see if it works. Still not working. It's going the right direction. Everything's fine, but it does not work. All right. And that's fine. What are we saying here? Toby Snars. Ha, meaty. All right, you guys. So that pretty much puts us where we want to be. I'm going to hit the hide all types to hide my sketches in any planes. And what I can see right here is my whole body, right? All 5 bodies that I've made. I want to bring them all together with a combine. I'll come over here to combine, and Control A will let me select all the bodies. Boom, right there. There we go. So now I have one body. So we used multi-bodies and some feature tree management here to build out the geometry that we have. And the only thing that didn't work was the ribs. And I'm pretty positive they will work now. If I go here and say rib and I say 1 millimeter linear, I don't have to choose a body. It is just not happening right now. Oh wait, no, I remember now. Now I know, now I know. I forgot to set a plane here. That's what it was. Can't go straight from there. So we'll do a plane from that inside face. There we go. And I'll move this plane above my sketch here. And I'm going to choose that plane right there. All right, now let's try it. Let's see if we go. Hey, there it is, ribs. Ribs for everyone. Make ribs, yay. All right, so we added our ribs in there, and all I did really here is I was starting my ribs here from the wrong face. I forgot that I made an extra plane when I was doing this before, and I went back and edited the plane that the sketch was sitting on, right? And told it to go down from that plane to terminate to the material side. There we go. After that, we can just go over here and throw some basic materials on here. Let's go throw some plastic over here. Drop that on the body and edit the color. Nice little pale green there. And change the display style. There we go. All right. So again, we used a number of different features, some reference geometry, and created multiple bodies that we could work on together and bring them all together to make one single geometric body using a number of different features. Not too incredibly painful, but very, 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 very useful. All we had to do is really just kind of like touch up on just a little bit of surfacing just for our cuts, really, and really that's it. So I want to thank you guys for letting me have my first live session here. And I'm going to turn this over here to the chat here. Does anybody have any particular questions regarding this particular design? And just so you know, before we get into questions, this is not the only way you could do this. Okay, this is not. It never is. There are other ways that we could do this, but this is one way we can do it. Okay. Any questions? Kirby, you're asking about night mode. I wish it had a name that cool. Um, but what I'm going to do is I'll show you how to get this darker mode. If we go up here to options and I come down here to colors, right here, I can change my background from light, medium dark, and dark. It makes me think of that Archer episode. It's like, is this black or is it light black? Right? It's light, medium light, and dark. So once I choose dark, then I'm going to come down to viewport background right here, viewport background, and I'm going to choose the plain description here. Instead of using a document scene background, I use the plain viewport. I was closing out with a straight line. Plain viewport line, and then you got to choose the color that you want it to be. My go-to is 87 through. So that's 87 RGB all the way down. It gives you a nice, solid, kind of like a slate color. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Uh, Brandon, I do not have my own YouTube channel. I was going to, but man, I got kids, man. So it's hard to find the time to actually get that together and put it together. I am going to be putting one together. I've done enough of these where I probably should be. So that's in the works. That's in the works. Any other questions here? Uh, how do you show that link rows on the Explorer windows? Uh, the link rows. Not really sure what you're talking about there. Can you clarify that real quick? Hi, may know which this is. Okay. Is it necessary to separate the bodies? Tushar, no, it is. It's not necessary to separate specifically because it's plastic, but I model a multi-body to give myself more flexibility to get the geometry that I want, and that way I can use features, different features, specific ways that I wouldn't necessarily be able to um, with a unibody. For instance, that surface cut that we did, if this was all one single body, that surface cut for that particular body, it would not shave off this nice little segment here. It would not work. Okay. Anyone else? Prasad, you're asking what design this is. For those late to the show here, uh, it's this guy right here, which is the key to my electric lawnmower, which is a sentence I'm pretty sure I never thought I would say in my life. It was the key to my electric lawnmower, man. Uh, Okay, Kyle, you're saying maybe they mean the search command and the SolidWorks search window. This guy right here, if we're talking about that, that's there by default when we open up SolidWorks. However, you can choose what mode you want the search to be on. If I want it to be set to help, if I want it to be set to files and models or my SolidWorks, I can change it through there. So was it Prasad? I think. Let me make sure I know who asked that question. Ba, 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 ba. Oh, no, it was Caesar. Yeah, that would be how you do it. All right. Um, Multi-body design is a very powerful way to design complex shapes quickly. Yeah, that's how you make most of your processing. Exactly. It's a great way to create some really interesting geometry very, very quickly, very, very accurately, and not have to deal with all the yellow tape of assemblies, right? I don't have to worry about um, certain files being in a certain location or the assembly going out and reaching out to all these different files. Inversely, if I wanted to make an assembly out of this part um, very quickly, it's literally one option, okay? If I didn't want to combine this and I wanted to change it to an assembly, very, very easy to do. Okay, it's in built into save bodies. Okay. Um, is multi-body similar to synchronized modeling in NX? Yes and no. I haven't used NX for a good while, but when I did use it last, there's similarities. NX in general on the whole is just a completely different product, right? But we're here for SolidWorks. I'll smile. Okay. Um, any other questions before we get out of here? Let's see. Kosuredi. Your design is different from the original one. You should have done by measuring, kind of. Yeah. I mean, I'm not modeling here for production, so this is kind of like a session lecture. I did actually measure this. That's why there's parameters and everything I went by. So if I was modeling for production, the whole purpose of actually me choosing this is because I'm going to 3D print this in case I lose it. And modeling for 3D printing is different from modeling for injection molding or machining. So the tolerances are different and a lot more forgiving, I'll say, in some ways. But yeah, I mean, it's not too spec, but it's very close, very very close. Anyone else? Oh, okay, Caesar. All right, I see what you're saying now. All right, you're saying how do I show these arrows here that link to other features? Okay, so this is called the dynamic reference visualization because SolidWorks loves long names. Okay, and what it's showing is my parent-child relations. For instance, if I were to go to this chisel cut here, right, or this mirror, if I right-click on this and go here to parent-child, all right, my mirror has parent features, my lower body, upper body, or lower body, ramp body, and my upper body. And then the children of the mirror are sketch 12, the lanyard, sketch 15, and a window. What dynamic reference visualization is doing, it's showing me real time where those parent-child relations are. So I can come up here to mirror, and it's showing me these leaders that's pointing to parent-childs. I can turn this on and off by going up here to my top level, right-clicking, and it's these two little buttons right here. Whoa, that's weird. These two little buttons right here, dynamic reference visualization, parent, and one for the child. Okay. Romani, you want some shortcut keys? Let me just throw some out there. Let's see here. The S button, which you guys have seen me using a lot through the through sketching and modeling. My S button is my shortcut palette, right? And it's dynamic, so it changes depending on what I'm doing. If I go and edit this sketch, for instance, and I hit the S button again, now I have a bunch of sketch tools. If I leave the sketch and I hit my S button, now I have a bunch of features. If I was in an assembly, it would show me assembly features. If I was in a drawing, it would show me drawing commands that I can put in there. Okay, that's one shortcut. There's been a couple through here that I've given you guys, I think. If you want some more, I can tell you some more. Anyone else? All right. Well, I think that concludes this session. Again, thank you guys for joining and checking it out. Um, Hope you were able to pull some information from here, and hope it's been educational. Um, be sure to tune in for other live designs that we do. I think we got one more. I might be wrong. I think someone. Uh, can we find shortcuts like all of them in one place? Yes. Your shortcuts, if you go right here, right click on any of the feature tabs, you can go over here to, I think it's keyboard. Yeah, keyboard has a list of all the shortcuts. Thank you, Toby. Toby's my boy. We got a history together. We used to run these streets in the CAD land. All right. All right, you guys. Well, like I said, stay tuned. Please come to another one sometime. Just so you know, I'm not in a nuclear bunker here. This is actually my office where I work daily. So no rubs the lotion on the skins jokes or anything. I'm not Hannibal. There's nothing in that cooler. I promise you, nothing at all. Uh, but thanks for coming. Appreciate it, and I hope you learned. You guys take care. Signing out here.